This is the Escher right way up, upside down layout. Hi there everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Jennifer Kirk, welcoming you here up into the loft on Weir Yard. Now, if you're thinking that Weir Yard looks a little bit different from what you've grown used to, and indeed, you're probably looking at me and thinking, gosh, she looks a bit fatter there. Well, hopefully a bit fatter rather than a bit thinner, because if I've let myself... Anyway, this is 6 months ago, and the reason for that is because I'm recording this after filming is finished for the super secret TV programme. Well, it was super secret now. Couldn't talk about it. You knew I was doing something. But by the time you see this, it will have been shown on the Yesterday channel, so I'm now free to release this video about the model that I built that was featured over... I don't actually know how many episodes it's featured over. I won't actually find that out until 6 months from now when I watch it on TV. But I built that Escher inspired layout with the help of Paul Tyre from PD Models. Now, we built this during lockdown. In fact, we built and filmed it during lockdown, and that put a lot of very difficult constraints on us. So Paul was up in Orkney. We had to film all the pieces with both of us over Zoom calls. He made stuff remotely, posted it down as a flat pack, and then I assembled stuff to his instructions. Now, the filming had to be done here because we couldn't go out to studios because of lockdown. And if you know, that all sounds really weird to you, then of course, yes, distant past. We're still coming at just to the end of the lockdown now. If you're in another lockdown, what on earth were you playing at? Because we thought we were all done with that, but I don't actually know from where I'm filming. Anyway, yeah. So basically, we had one person here, a guy called Terry, who was a really great guy, did all the filming. He's probably now working on Digging for Britain because that was what he went off to do afterwards. But we just had him turn up, everybody masked up apart from me when I was on camera, and it was great fun. It's quite a challenging build, filmed over 4 days, spread out across about a month and a half. So in between I got to kind of try and get it to work. We did get it to work in the end, as you've seen on the TV programme. That in itself wasn't easy, and I had to wing a lot of the stuff. And I'm going to talk through some of the things that I had to change and really put a lot of effort in. But anyway, I'm just about to dismantle that model now, as in 6 months ago. So it's the ideal opportunity to film this and then save all the footage for when we come back. So come with me in association with Trainomatic, makers of DCC decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Check them out today at tramfabrique.nl or tramfabrique.co.uk. Today's video also comes with the support of PD Models, makers of a whole range of 3D printed kits and accessory detailing that brings something special to your model layout. And we're going to take a good close look at the Escher layout that I built for, at this moment in time, I don't know what the title is because it only has a working title, which they've told me they will change, but they don't know what the actual title is. But you will know what the title is. We'll probably put it there, and I will go, oh, that's what they called it, is it? Wow, would never ever guessed that. But anyway, come with me. Let's take a good close look. It's a bit hard to see, but hopefully we'll be able to interspace this with some of the other footage that we got during the building. But this is the Escher upside down layout, inspired by Escher, built by myself, with a lot of assistance from Paul Tyre of PD Models. You're seeing it here 6 months ago, as I said in the intro, and we've finished filming, and that's why the light's still here, but just now coming to dismantle it. But before I do that, what I want to do is to just give you a little talk through this model and what went into building it. It's basically two 3-foot diameter discs, and they're actually just discs of, it's like, I think it's about 12mm, maybe even 18mm plywood, and you'll see up there on the top there's some electronics, and I get to those in a bit. I've measured everything up. These bearings are now fixed. I can take them off if they want to film me putting them back on. I drilled the hole for the motor. I've got the centre thing lined up. It's a little bit tricky getting that line so it didn't bind, but still the teeth meshed. And I think I've got that done.
That's what's spinning. And it's going to turn that, yeah?
It's supposed to. But
is that a bit too heavy?
Basically it's pulling far too many amps, which in turn means that there's just, it can't do it. The only other thing I could think of doing is touching a car battery to it. It will power it absolutely fine because, let's face it, it can turn over a car engine. Yeah, I have MacGyvered it. So the controller I had, the overload circuit kept cutting in. This is a car jump starter. Unfortunately, as I was handicapped by problem after problem, the battery inside it has failed, so it won't hold a charge. So I've plugged it into the wall to its charging circuit, and I've then used the car jumpers direct to the wiring and it should just spin.
Okay, let's do the test that we had before. Can you spin my hat? Yeah! Well done.
See, MacGyver, it's the way. It's basically two 3-foot diameter discs. Essentially they had to be identical, so I had them on the table side by side as you saw in the TV programme, and I just built them as a pair. And the trees there are mirrored, if I can just get away from the light, by the trees up there. It was intended to have people, sheep, a whole bunch of different cameos, but time constraints meant that it wasn't possible to add those embellishments because of other issues that crept in. It's, in all honesty, a little bit bigger than I was expecting as well, but hey.
So you're just setting it up so that the glue can dry now, yeah?
Yeah, just testing something out, which hopefully will mean that tomorrow everything will be hardened and do what it's supposed to.
Yeah. Jen, you don't do things by half.
Well, and as you can see...
And of course, when you're spinning it around, it looks like the train isn't going.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Like that. The tower in the middle was laser cut by Paul Tyre at PD Models, and then I assembled it here. Now, ran into some problems, so I had to modify it on the fly. I'm not sure how much of that is going to be apparent in the TV programme, but there was a lot of modification done on the fly. Buried underneath the track and the top is the DCC Concepts power base. It's like a metal strip. And then what I had two locomotives. I haven't got the one for the down layout, but I've got this one here. This is the model that ran on the upper, and you can see underneath all those magnets. Had to get fitted with a stabilising bogie. That was like a last-ditch effort to make it work, and it actually did. But that's why this looked slightly different. And as you can see here, if I just try and line it up, and that actually does run, and I've got a very small piece of footage that I took showing it running. And the problem was that those magnets that are underneath, because so many of them were required, they were causing all manner of issues, scrambling the DCC decoder. It just couldn't cope with being in such a magnetic field like that. It's a very strong magnetic field. So what I did was I added a decoder on the main board from an old Hellion Class 17. This is the bit that you didn't really see on the TV programme. We talked about fitting the decoder, but we decided it didn't really further the actual story, as it were. So it didn't add anything to the TV programme, so we didn't mention it. Bit of a cheat, really. But there's a decoder sat in the 8-pin socket, and then the motor outputs are actually wired direct to the track. So this locomotive down here is just completely DC, but it runs through the DCC bus. So I'm just going to give you a slightly closer look at the locomotive under more favourable light. And you can see there that the front bogie is cranked. It's because it permanently sits on a curved piece of track. There's 4 magnets there, all glued to the underside. Actually, no, 5 including that one. Very carefully placed in order to balance this, because if it tips up, it does literally just fall off the track. It's a standard DC motor in there. The DCC was removed because it was getting confused by the magnetic field. And inside the boiler on these is usually a big lead weight. Now that has been removed as well. So this is a lot lighter than it would ordinarily be. Now that the filming's over, what I'm actually going to do is return this to ordinary function. I'm not going to keep it as is. So I'll remove that bogie from the front, remove all the magnets, put the couplings back on, and I will add the lead weight back into the boiler, and this will just become a regular locomotive for another project. Right, I'm going to start dismantling this now that I've shown you all of this, and I'm going to talk you through the various components. This top tier is going to War World Scenics. Martin Rees there has said that he will give it a home, so it will hopefully become one of his projects, probably with a lake or a pond in the centre. I think he mentioned he would do. War World Scenics actually very kindly donated to the TV production all of the static grass, ballast, glue material, all of that kind of thing was donated very kindly by them. We also got a lot of materials from Hornby. Of course, the TV series is notionally about Hornby and the development of their models, so it did make sense as well to have some stuff from them. It's also why the locomotives are the Hornby ex-Lancashire and Yorkshire Pugs, also because they're quite light. So it's quite easy to modify them to stick upside down using magnets. Right, I'm going to now take the top tier off, and then I can talk you through the electronics and the construction of the tower. The top tier plugs to the DCC bus simply by means of one of these plug-in connectors. Just makes it easier for dismantling, that kind of thing. And that's the location socket for the tower, which if I now come around here, you can see that the tower, we have the other side of that assembly, and it's just cobbled together out of bits of wood to make a structure. So inside this tower is an actual wooden structure. The tower itself is not load bearing. It all runs through DCC. So what we've got here, I'll just show you that. That's the DCC feed, and when I take the bottom tier off, I'll show you how that power is transmitted, such that as this spins round, everything still works reliably. And that was a really ingenious system dreamt up by Paul Tyre of PD Models. There's also a second feed, a DC 12 volt feed through a speed controller box, and that purely powers the motor. Now the issue with this was originally the motor was too high geared. What isn't alluded to on the program is that I had to build a completely modified gearbox, which is incredibly noisy and which has stripped a gear, so I can't actually show you it running until I dismantle this to fix. Actually, it might have shed the drive belt, but I had to build, using Technic Lego, a lash-up gearbox that would allow the power to be geared right down and to actually spin this without overloading the electronics, which I did actually succeed. But again, we didn't really talk about that on the program because they felt it was, it would just pass over a lot of people's heads. It didn't add to the story. But going back to the top tier, we can see there a better view of the lash-up. And there is a DCC decoder there. I'm currently holding this, so I can't point at it. But that's just the control board of a Hellion Class 17 that I had in my scrap box. And it does do the job fantastically. Although one thing you have to watch out for is if you were to accidentally short out the track on the top tier, it will pop that decoder. There is zero protection for the decoder, and that really is the price you pay. But as there's no point work, then unless you're stupid enough to put a screwdriver across the rails whilst it's live, that's not going to happen. With the top tier lifted off, and I've actually just rested it on a plastic type crate, just see underneath there. That is purely because there's a bearing underneath there. I will show you that in a moment. But you can see the lash-up gearbox made out of Technic Lego, and actually there we are. There's the issue, is this drive belt has flipped off the motor, and it does all work. So if I manually turn all these, eventually, once all the slack has moved out in the drivetrain, what it does is it rolls those wheels at the back there, which are sprung loaded, and they just run on the underside of this this wooden disc and slowly rotate it round. The original drive was supposed to be through a gear on top of here, direct drive to the gear that sits with the bearing into here. Just here as well, we've got a central pickup that just slides in there, and then this wire makes contact with the bearing outer, and that then gives us the power through for the DCC bus to power everything. And it's a constant power despite this rotating. So it's a really clever system, and it means that you can spin this as fast as you like, and the train will keep running. The lights in the lighthouse keep flashing because we've got that in there as well. And it makes no difference, and there's no wires slowly getting wound up, and then we've got these 3D printed outriggers as well. So I've got it onto its side now, and you can see there the original toothed ring that it was supposed to drive from the motor, but it was too high geared. Then there's the bearing there, and that's what was transmitting the power through and allowing this all to spin. And that is actually very, very free running. There's the other power pickup there in the centre. And you can also see the ring, which is where those rubber wheels were just sort of rotating underneath. And it was doing that for several hours whilst this was running. The mark there is actually where the that rubber belt has rubbed against the underside. So it's little wonder really that it's jumped off. It's probably under a lot of strain. And taking this off now, I can just show you much, much better the Technic Lego gearbox that I built. There's about 70 plastic gears in there. The drive was doubled up to be able to transmit the torque, and I had to go through some very, very careful engineering just to make sure that it didn't just shred gears, which is actually a very real issue with all of this. Then there's a lot of bracing pieces just to stop the torque from pushing things apart. And then this was spring-loaded just to make sure that it would tightly sit on the underside of the top board just there, but without actually lifting it up. And it did all work in the end. So this drive belt was around there. So you can see there, over the noise, that's starting to rotate, and that was just would slowly rotate the top tier round. But it did its job, but I'm now going to dismantle that and put it all back in my Technic Lego box for another day. But there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed this brief anatomy of the Escher build. And at this point, hopefully you've watched the series and enjoyed it. And maybe I'm involved in something else. I don't know at this point. But thank you ever so much for watching this very brief anatomy of the Escher model build. Well, I hope you really enjoyed that build, and certainly I had a lot of fun putting that together for the TV programme. Don't forget to tickle the like button and also share this video too. Let others see the behind the scenes footage of just what went into building that Escher upside down layout. And if you haven't already done so, do consider subscribing to the channel and you'll be the first to know about new videos as and when they go up. But until next time, this is me, Jenny Kirk, saying you take great care of yourself. Happy modelling, and from the past, bye for now. Today's video is sponsored by Train-O-Matic, makers of DCC decoders designed to be fully compatible with every manufacturer's locomotive. Visit train-o-matic.com to browse the full range and see what they've got suitable for you. Today's video also comes with the support of PD Models, makers of a whole range of 3D printed kits and accessory detailing that brings something special to your model layout. Available in a number of different scales and gauges, this range is sure to have something for you, so check them out at the affiliate link down below to see what they have got today to make your model layout something special. PD Models are also well known for their museum quality models that can be made bespoke to order, so do contact them if you have some specific requirements and see if they can do something special for you. I'd like to send out a huge thanks to everybody who supports me on Patreon, and an extra special huge thanks goes out to Anthony Kidson, Offshore Allen, oorail.co.uk, Michael Lockie, Helen Sink, Peter Bolton, Brian and Dorothy Mudd, Gary Lewis, David Quinn, Sparky107107, George Botterini, Chris Moss, Robert Steers, MD of San Juan Model Company and Grantline Products, Sam Yates, Dale Williams, John N from NC, NYMRish, Jonathan Foster, Peter, Graham Foster, Clifford Ison, Larry W. Grant, NI Railways 4000 class, Ian Coulson, and Alan Dickerson. Thank you. Without you guys, I couldn't do this.